Allow you to record.
Hi, guys out there. We are live, and I need to record.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Recording in
There we
progress.
go.
Welcome to the Three Man Weave College Basketball Podcast. Yes, the men are back again. Yes, we almost forgot to hit the record button once again on the podcast, but thankfully Jim remembered, and Kai hit the button. Hooray, hurrah, Mizzou, Mizzou. Mizzou's not having a good year, but you know who is? Three Man Weave, especially on Valentine's Day. Yeah, we love each other. We love college basketball. Fellas, how's it going? Welcome, Wednesday podcast. Jimmy, how are you?
I'm great. I'm probably the only one that doesn't have big dinner plans with the wifey tonight. So
Oh, no.
I'm going to be watching ball. You two will, however, be on your lovely evening. Matt, you're pointing to flowers in the background. Good for you.
I just now noticed there was an unintentional background addition for today's show. Yes, so we're very festive here, Kai. All the more reason to join us live, by the way, for those of you that don't. Come by. Shirk an hour of work. And yes, big night for me and Kai tonight.
Yes.
8:30 dinner reservations. Everyone in Naples had the same
Wow.
idea. So yeah, kind of a tough time slot availability. But do what you can.
Hey, good for you. Wife and I are not doing anything for Valentine's Day. We actually never do. We don't really celebrate it, which is
That's a
great for
Boycott
me.
TC Williams. That's you.
Yes. Who's the comedian that says they don't like getting flowers for somebody? It's like, here's some flowers. Now watch these die. I think it's Dimitri Martin. It's pretty
Phenomenal
good. Pretty good
take.
joke. Anyways, happy V-Day to everyone out there. Yes, good show for you guys today, of course, the podcast. If you're listening on the iTunes, Spotify route, please consider checking out our YouTube if you want to see our faces. The overlay, the background we use, getting a small upgrade soon, courtesy of Kai's little sister, who's good with art and tools and such of those nature things. We should have a rundown, is what I'm getting at for our next overlay, which will be very helpful for our best bet show, which we're hoping to get, again, more than just once a week. We're right there. Verbal agreement is in the bag. However, we will not be starting those shows until we have a signed agreement for obvious reasons. For obvious reasons, both sides.
It's like a holdout, right? Kind of like, we
No
basically have
holdouts.
the contract on. We will not be in OTAs until that is officially inked in pen. That's our stance here. Yeah.
Yes. But today, standard Roots Roundup, we saw that three-man thoughts, game previews, and of course, reviews are now at the end of the podcast. If you will be so kind to leave reviews, 5-star variety on iTunes, we will read them on the show, ask questions in there. Have two really good ones today that we will discuss at the end of the podcast. Again, do subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, and of course, the YouTube channel. Yes, please do subscribe to the YouTube channel. You will find our podcast and our best bets shows on that medium. That is it for the intro, except, hey, I'm going to Washington, D.C. this weekend. I'm going to Georgetown and Maryland. Yeah, I'm going to see the Terps and the Hoyas play. Very excited for that. Visiting a good friend up there. If you have any recommendations for things to do in the venues, they live in D.C., but I could always use
Check out
recommendations.
the White House.
The White House.
The White House.
Okay, I'll go by the White House. Some
The
monuments.
Capitol with an O. Those are my two recs.
Yeah.
Jim?
Kai, I've been watching 24.
Yeah, it's a
going
great
through
show.
that. I'd never seen it before. I know it's very old, like 20 years, but I'm all into that. I mean, everything takes place in LA, pretty much, but the White House and all that, it's on the mind. Mr. Haysbert, David Palmer. So I hope you get some good sightseeing done there.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, enough about me. Let's get into the podcast. Roots Roundup time.
Let's do it. We're talking news and notes in Roots Roundup. Yes, the Chris Holtmann news will be discussed. But before we do, a big shout out to our pals at CBB Analytics. Kai, I got this.
Thank
You're
you.
host.
Thank you.
So you take a little breather over there.
Thank you.
CBB Analytics is the best 30,000-foot view of the numbers in college hoops. Continues to get more and more permeating in the college basketball world. I see more and more people using graphs and charts from it. Really, really interesting stuff. They showed a picture of Zach Edey's plus minus in every game this year. He's like plus 350 on the season. Every single game he's positive except one of the games was Nebraska, and they lost that. So Edey, very positively influential for Purdue. Plenty of D1 coaching staffs, more than 25, use it in scouting. So it's out there for coaches, bettors, fans. Everybody can use this website and benefit from it, especially if you're a diehard. And you can also use the promo code WEAVE. At setup, you will get $40 off your subscription, which is essentially a free month on the fan subscription. So check that out as we get into March. You're going to want to have all that data, have a lot more stuff to exercise there. CBB Analytics, promo code WEAVE for $40 off. All right. News and notes. Yes, Chris Holtmann is out. Happened just about 90 minutes ago as we record this. Jeff Goodman first to the news wire. Matt, I thought it was interesting. It was, per source told Field of 68. It's not Stadium or Messenger anymore. It is truly
Mm.
Field of 68 over there from Mr. Goodman. So Holtmann's done. First of all, Matthias, what do you think of this timing as a mid-season firing? Is that surprising to you? Do you think it is warranted?
It's not that surprising. It just felt like the mob was at the door, was at the gates, Kai. Some of these other programs, I'm not surprised. I'm surprised why they don't pull the trigger earlier just to get a head start on the upcoming season, not just hiring cycle, but also portal cycle, right? Like it is sort of, part of me is like, I don't know, old school, let the coach finish the year. But I think in the current era, I think you got to get a head start with this. Like there's no patience to wait a year or two to truly rebuild in the traditional fashion.
Yeah, I guess I don't disagree. I'm sure. I don't know if you're a head coach currently and you're going to get fired anyways. Would you rather get fired now?
I think I would
get a head start in the
I think I
offseason.
would. I think I would too.
There's-
For both parties, it actually helps.
There's always like hope springs eternal sort of thing in the actual like conference tournament. Like maybe Ohio State would have made a big run. Didn't they last year?
They did last year.
Big
Yeah,
run.
same kind of thing.
Yeah, sucks for Holtmann. It's kind of like sliding doors, right? He was in position to make the tournament in the COVID year, like a lot of other teams, and that would have been his fourth straight tournament. Just tough gym for him.
Yeah, I guess there's first mover advantage for the school to like be the first one reaching out to candidates and stuff, and anybody that would have been interested in DePaul is surely interested in Ohio State, so you could potentially trump that and take the best candidate. I will mention Goodman floated Lamont Paris and Sean Miller as candidates here. Lamont Paris obviously has ties to the Big Ten from his time at Wisconsin. Miller's got plenty of ties to the state, having been at Xavier twice. Apparently those buyouts are lower. Matt, thoughts on those, and tell me why Dusty May wouldn't be in the mix here.
I think he has to be in the mix.
Yeah.
He should be in the mix for any job, right? Like,
It's almost like,
yeah.
oh, they haven't been top 10, so people haven't mentioned him, but I feel like he's got to be.
May's already been very, no, I'm making this up sarcastically. Maybe he's already floated that I am only taking the Indiana job. I am just basically only locking on that, or he's going to stay down here in Florida for his next 2 decades and just have a great life and have a mid-major power. The Gonzaga of the Southeast in Boca, Kai. Those are Dusty's two paths on his decision tree.
Does this make Indiana move a little bit faster with Woodson, or at least thinking about Woodson? Because if Ohio State hires Dusty May, it's kind of like the Cal Stanford thing right now with
Yes,
Mark Madsen.
don't be that.
Where it's
Exactly.
like, we just missed our guy because we, for whatever reason, decided not to fire a guy that's clearly not working right now.
Yeah.
And Indiana won't drag. Like, I mean, Stanford sort of is like basketball to them is, diminishing in importance. I think we've seen that for the last decade or so. But Indiana will not hesitate to make a brash move, I think, if they feel it's in the best interest of their program.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, hey, if they go get Dusty May, you could do a lot worse in Indiana than promoting Indiana State Josh Schertz and raising him up the ladder there. Pat Taylor saying per Trilly Donovan, Lamont Paris is getting a huge extension at South Carolina. I think that's maybe just going to raise the buyout. As far as I know, extensions do not mean you can't leave. It just makes it harder to leave or more expensive for the school taking you. I would imagine, yes, he's using this as leverage, but there's a chance. I wouldn't say there's a 0% chance Paris is staying or leaving, I guess. So we'll see. Guys, any other thoughts on Ohio State?
Oh, yeah, Paris is from Ohio. I was just trying to connect those dots. So sort of.
Yeah, and he
closer to
coached in the
home
Big
type
Ten
feel.
at Wisconsin.
Big
So yeah,
Ten.
there's a little
Wisconsin,
bit of connection there. Charlotte has removed the interim tag from Aaron Fern. Incredibly well-deserved here, considering where the 49ers are at
Aussie.
Oi, oi, oi. Where they're at in the American standings. They currently reside tied for second with FAU, just a game behind South Florida. They almost had South Florida. They could have been alone in first. Just recently took that L. Yeah, very well-deserved. He was a great dude talking to him this offseason, considering all the turmoil and kind of quick turnaround he had going from being an assistant to suddenly being the interim guy with the timing of Ron Sanchez's departure. So yeah, big props to Mr. Fern, and it seems like future is bright for Charlotte. I know the fan base is excited about this promotion. And then Kai, in the DePaul world, Trilly Donovan getting a second mention here in the news and notes section. Dropped a little short list for DePaul. The 4 names on it: Porter Moser, Bobby Hurley, Josh Schertz, and Bryce Drew, all with some ties to the area. Bobby Hurley's staff is super Chicago plugged in. That was a main point there. Thoughts on that group, Kai, and which one will you predict is the coach at DePaul?
I don't buy Porter Moser at all. I don't buy that one whatsoever. He's at Oklahoma. You're not taking the DePaul job. He's in no danger of losing his job. No. Hurley, as a parachute, that seems like the most likely option, I think. I will go with Hurley as the choice. Now, Schertz would be my second one on this list because Bryce Drew, someone pointed this out. I want to give the person credit for connecting the dots here. Bryce Drew, it'd be pretty tough if his 2 power jobs were Vandy and DePaul and had almost no chance of winning. So I think he steers clear and is picky about this one. So I think it's Hurley or Schertz. Schertz, in that article by Trilly, he mentioned Indiana State doesn't have an AD right now. I did not realize that. So I think it's a 2-horse race, Matthew.
I agree. I would love for Porter to come back to Chicago. He's just such a Chicago guy, but obviously that's Oklahoma to DePaul with the money differential, program prestige. It just doesn't make any sense. And Porter seems pretty happy, and he's doing well down there in Norman. So, yeah, I guess Bobby's my vote, and I'm actually kind of excited about that. It's going to be a very DePaul hire if they go with Hurley. As I said, like it'll be like maybe a C caliber hire, but better than their prior 3 hires, which were what D's, and F's respectively.
Personally, I think it'd be a great hire.
I think it'd be a good.
He will recruit.
Yeah, I say C plus, B minus.
He will recruit. B minus. He'll be their best coach in a long time, or at least higher in terms of like getting the program players in a long time.
I'm still on board with my Holtmann. Take him from Ohio State or Butler. I think that'd be a home run for DePaul as well. Mm-hmm. So
I think Holman's a better hire than Hurley. I agree with Jim on that one.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Great. All right. Skipping down to injuries because nothing in recruiting. We love that. Focus on the ball. Sadly, though, there are a few injuries to mention here. Just announced for Northwestern, Ty Berry out for the season with a torn meniscus. I saw them looking at his knee, like the inside of it, and it was like, oh, is it MCL? I was worried about it, Matt. I've anointed myself a knee expert, having had one knee injury. And unfortunately, meniscus is a real pain to fix. You got to have like a couple weeks of no weight bearing at all. So, yeah, this really hurts Northwestern, a team with very little depth already. But just makes Boo Buie even more important, and Mr. Martinelli going to be crucial as well.
Yeah, fun team. They've been good all year. Like, really haven't had any really major letdowns in Big Ten play while other teams have, except, yeah, right. But they're good. Chicago State. That doesn't count. That was like 3 years ago, right? Yeah, Chris Collins. Nice work.
I maintain very strongly if we get Northwestern versus a Mountain West team again in the first round like last year, I will be betting Northwestern. They took down Boise State last year. So give me those purple cats. In mid-major news, Darren Boyd of Lipscomb out for the season with a torn ACL. We don't always mention every injury from the mid-major world, but Kai, he was a candidate for player of the year in that conference. Big time scorer for them. They're already missing Jacob Obnasovich, their probably best player in the preseason. So just kind of a tough one for Lenny Acuff down there, a universally respected coach.
Yeah, I think this team could have pushed for top 100 if they had both those guys the entire season. And that was echoed across the ASUN when I talked to other coaches. Like Lipscomb was the real deal along with EKU to win that league, and losing your best 2 players to injury. Ognacevic hasn't even played the entire season. He was almost player of the year last year in the ASUN. So that sucks. Feel for Lipscomb there.
Yep. And then the Louisville world, Skyy Clark, broken ribs, potentially, likely out for the season. Matt, I mean, I don't mind more Tyler Johnson, but Skyy Clark
Tyler Johnson.
Skyy Clark has hit some big shots for them lately. He hit the game tire at Syracuse that they decided not to get back on defense after. We've made fun of this roster for not having enough guards, and taking another one off is a problem.
It is, but more Tyler is basically the only narrative I care about for Louisville in this current season. So yeah, bummer. I guess it was, probably going to hurt their prognosis this season, but if Tyler's usage goes to 50%, that's a good thing in my opinion. So
50. Wow. Okay. Launch it, Tyler. You have the greenest of green lights.
Tyler.
Yeah, Tyler. Former Memphis commit.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Fun fact. Stats of the day before we move into We Saw That. Kai, I'm going to kick it over to you for our stats of the day section.
Ben Golan on Twitter. Texas Tech's Darian Williams becomes the first college basketball player since 2010 with at least 30 points, 11 rebounds, and 3 assists on a 100, 100, 100 shooting in a game. So he was perfect from the field, perfect from the line, 30, 11, and 3. Good job, Darian Williams. That's a hell of a game.
Yeah, pretty awesome. I bet Texas Tech in that game, wrote it up for Action Network. And Matt, I did not expect it to be quite that cushy, but he got a Bill Self ejection, and the wheels really came off for the Jayhawks in the second half.
Yeah, well, they have 3.5 players right now, Jim, so it's a problem for KU.
Yes, they need to get healthy. Kai, Marquise Warwick, Northern Kentucky,
Yeah.
all-time leading scorer.
Amazing. Marcus Warwick, yeah. All-time leading scorer in KU. Congratulations. Hat tip. Setting records. You make the list. You make the rundown if you set records.
How do you asterisk him for the COVID year?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Yeah, if you play 5 years in college, that's a records. Unfortunately, are going to be broken with all these extra years. You have to know the context. Obviously, Pete Maravich, what he did was insane.
Yep. Ridiculous. And then the final note, Kai, is a depressing one for us.
Yes, Jim, Indiana State. They were ranked for the first time since Larry Bird played there, 1979, and they promptly lost at home to Illinois State as 18.5-point favorites. This is a bad loss for Indiana State. This does not totally preclude them from at-large contention, but it's a big blow. And yeah, it really sucks, Jim. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, part of their profile was we haven't lost outside of Q1. And then suddenly they have this disgusting Q4 loss. The resume metrics, I mean, really both resume and predictive metrics are still solid for them, but it's going to be a tough blemish as people look for an excuse to keep out of mid-major at large. They will be able to point to this, and that's no bueno. We want to see the Sycamores in the tournament, and this was a big hurdle or speed bump in that path.
Yeah, I mean, look, you probably win your last 5 games. You have the ability to win your last 5 games if you're Indiana State, favored in all of them. If you do, you have 27 wins. I don't think 27 has been kept out of the tournament. I know 26 has. Missouri State, Utah State back in the day. 27 is a big number to leave out.
Yeah, I mean, and it would be more than that, right? It'd be
if you win the Missouri Valley too. Yeah,
pick up 2 more wins theoretically.
Right.
So if they get close to 30, get them in there. I want them in the tournament. It's actually going to be relevant to another mid-major team that Matthias will discuss in one of his 3-man thoughts later. I'm on board with another potential mid-major at large, but we'll get to that when we get there. Kai, that wraps up Roots Roundup. I'll kick it back over to you for We've Saw That.
We've saw that. What did the Weave see over the past week? Well, we saw some monster wins to start. How about Arizona, guys? A triple overtime win at Utah, and then they beat Colorado for the second time this season, beat the brakes off them, swept the mountain road trip. Arizona Wildcats, man. I have not lost faith the entire year, Matt. Have you?
Nope, never. Pretty funny press conference from Tommy Lloyd going into the. No, I didn't. I never did. I voiced minor concerns about their defense, which I still hold, but super impressive road trip. Tommy Lloyd was basically like dismissing all of the altitude questions at his press conference in very brash fashion, and I think he really won that battle in hindsight, like to win triple OT and then just to dominate Colorado. Yeah, maybe it's all nonsense. Good for Tommy and the boys.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of wild that like people were really playing up this Colorado team preseason, and they are on the outside looking in right now. I don't think they're a tournament team if it ended today right now.
Wow, amazing. Yeah. Texas Tech, wow. We mentioned it. They beat Kansas by 29 at Lubbock, in Lubbock. No Kevin McCullough in that game. That is a big asterisk. Injuries don't always matter, especially in 29-point games. But when it's Kansas, Matt mentioned 3.5 players. Yeah, they kind of need McCullough. Also, that would have been his return again to Texas Tech, which, of course, another story with the transfer portal these days. So, yeah, Texas Tech, great win. Tournament team for sure right now.
Yeah, I'd say they did jump 17 spots in KenPom with this one win.
That's a
lot. Now 16. I think they moved back 1 without playing last night. If we had said in the preseason this team is going to have the best offense in the Big 12 and a top 11 offense nationally, I would have felt insane. It was like, if they're going to win with defense, with Warren Washington, Grant McCaslin, and no, they are loaded with shooting. They can torch you from the perimeter. They did it to Kansas, basically didn't miss a three. It felt like for the first 25 minutes. I'm shocked at why this team is good. Not that they are good.
Yeah.
I'm shocked at how and why they are good.
It's sort of like McCaslin's like, I'll get who I can get, and I'm a good enough defensive coach that will be good enough defensively to win, and that's what they happen, right? And they have an awesome home court, and yeah, they shoot the crap out of the ball. My goodness, have they made shots this year?
How about Gonzaga, guys? I have a thought on them a little bit later, but they won at Kentucky. Huge. We'll talk about their tournament hopes in the three-man thought, but Gonzaga took care of business at Rupp. Texas A&M crushed Tennessee, and then they lost to Vanderbilt. Get out of my tournament.
We think that's better, though, right? Is it better to lose to Tennessee and beat Vandy and just kind of ho-hum exist? Or do you want the Q1A win and the Q3, Q4 fringe loss?
I take the win over Tennessee, Jim. I agree. If you had to choose, for sure. Yeah.
Yep. But just beat Vandy. That's what you should do.
Yeah, I don't like that team.
Do that.
I don't like them. I loved them preseason. Hand up. I do not like them now. Florida dominated Auburn. Big win for the Gators. Todd Golden looks like he might be going dancing for the first time at Florida. Him and Lamont Paris, your two SEC hires. Sorry, Matt McMahon. You have to wait a little bit longer for your first dance. And maybe
Dennis
Chris
Gates
Jans,
is
maybe?
Not waiting for his no, Mississippi State made it last
Jans
year.
made last year. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, Gates. No turning for Gates this year, probably.
Yeah, you're talking trajectories of all the year two SEC hires, and one is facing the wrong way. The others are looking up.
Jim's got a longer thought on this, but yeah, the six big Mountain West, it's very realistic right now. Nevada won at Utah State, and they beat San Diego State. Impressive. Boise looks good still. The other four in good shape. We will talk about that a little bit later in the show. And then how about NJIT? Possibly the weirdest string of results in the country to date. Is that hyperbole, Matt? I don't know. They beat Vermont and UMass Lowell, the two best teams in the America East, back-to-back. And NJIT, I think most would have called them the worst team in that conference before that.
Young team, Kai getting better. And Grant Billmeyer, I don't have a strong take on this. We'll see what happens next year. But as we mentioned before, the Kevin Willard associate tree has done pretty well this year. Kind of tough when you factor in the trials and tribulations of Maryland themselves under Mr. Willard.
Matt, four of their top six players are seniors. Like I know they're youngish, and like their best players are freshmen.
They're not that young. I agree. They're not that young.
Yeah, it's surprising. Like I was kind of under the same impression as you. I was like, oh yeah, this team of all freshmen and sophomores is trending up. It's like, no, it's a couple of freshmen and a bunch of seniors. So it was surprising that they had been that bad, and then suddenly knocking off the two powerhouses in that league.
Bonkers finish in Drake Evansville. If you guys didn't see this one, to put it shortly, Evansville hit a deep contested three to tie the game with about 4 seconds left. And then Drake, right after, hit a half-court bank shot to win. I think there was some controversy that they might have called a timeout before the player got it off, too. So, nuts finish. Drake survives Evansville. That would have been a poor loss in the same day as Indiana State. But they survived. So, congrats to Drake. Awesome finish.
Many credit to Connor Enright for making a pass in that final 4 seconds. I feel like usually guys are like, all right, I'm just running down as far as I can get and chucking. And he kind of kept his head up, saw Enright in the middle of the court. I mean, like, look, he was still taking close to a half quarter. It's not a great shot, but it was better than what he would have thrown up. So I like that court awareness out of Mr. Enright.
A couple individual performances, including triple doubles. But Malik Brown had a 5x5 game, a nickel. Is this what we call it? Against Louisville. He had at least five stats, 11 points, 9 boards, 5 assists, 6 blocks, 5 steals per Jared Burson. That's just the third game in the last 15 years of a nickel, a 5x5, if you will. So Malik Brown, wow. And then Syracuse followed that up by beating North Carolina. Huge win for Syracuse. Do they have life? Probably not. I don't know. Good win.
The win over UNC put their resume metrics at least in consideration range, Kai, for a bit. The predictive stuff is still lagging way behind for them, but resume is like in consideration range for sure.
Love it.
5 and 8 against the top 2 quadrants.
Yeah, that's like right in the bubble territory.
So, right,
that's better than a lot of teams. Kai's got to get on his bracket game soon. I've been slacking.
I've been really dialed the last week and a half, so I'm into it. I love it.
Got to get in there. Okay, Rio Grande Valley's Elijah Elliott had 40 against Stephen F. Austin last week. They lost, but still had 40. We applaud individual efforts in losing efforts. Yes, we love those type of players, don't we?
The Vaqueros.
Vaqueros. Triple doubles. Yeah, Western Carolina. Guess who? Vontarius Woolbright again. This is like his third, fourth triple-double of the season. 16, 10, and 10 against Mercer. Guy's insane if you haven't watched him. Will he be in the NBA, Jim? Has he gotten NBA vibes?
Can't shoot.
I don't think he shoots it well enough. Yeah, he's like the classic big-time playmaking wing jumbo rebounder. But yeah, the shooting is going to hold him up big time. He will make a lot of money playing basketball. It just may not be in the NBA.
Yeah, I feel like triple-doubles are becoming more of a norm here because we have 3 this week. Davon Smith for Utah. His second triple-double of the year, 14, 11, and 10. This was in triple overtime, so definitely an asterisk. And yeah, Jim, 6 for 20 from the field. Not great.
Yeah.
Not a great game.
They Sports Reference puts up game scores for these, and his was like an 8.4, which is not good.
Not good.
To have a triple-double and get like an 8 game score is like, you did a lot of other things wrong.
And then finally, yeah, it was mentioned actually in the chat, Baylor Shireman for Creighton. The first triple-double points, rebounds, assists in Creighton history. Apparently there was one guy who did it with blocks, but he had 15, 11, and 11 on Tuesday against Georgetown. I would assume he had one with South Dakota State. This guy's like a 5-tool player his entire career, but congrats to Shireman.
It's fun to play Georgetown and DePaul in that league.
Yes.
Like Quincy Oliveri had 40 against DePaul. He's putting up a triple-double against Georgetown. Like those are stat pad games, Matthias.
It's great for Ed Cooley that DePaul, this version of DePaul exists in his first season. I think he's ducking a lot of like, holy cow, what a disaster tenure this year. Like, because they are kind of awful right now. I mean, I don't feel like there's even like effort really. I know he's trying to play some young guys, but I feel like Ed Cooley, you're always like, yeah, they're going to grind and work. And I just like, I don't know. I feel like they give up pretty easily in a lot of these games defensively. So
really excited to see him on Friday in Georgetown.
Yeah, don't mention I said that, but yeah, no, I'm excited for you to meet him too.
Finally, bad losses will round out the We've Saw That section. Wisconsin got smashed by Rutgers. Coincidentally, another one of my 3-man thoughts will be on Wisconsin. They lost 4 in a row, and they beat Ohio State, got back in the win column. But yes, Wisconsin is floundering. New Mexico lost at home.
They're floundering so bad that losing to them got Holtmann fired.
Yeah. Ooh,
that's tough.
That's all these other teams beat Wisconsin lately, and you can't, Chris. That's it. You're done. Yeah, New Mexico. How about this? I did not know this happened on Saturday amongst the millions of games. When I was looking back at some scores, UNLV beat New Mexico at New Mexico. Huh? Matt?
They kind of
UNLV is good. UNLV is good. UNLV is very good.
But they're not part of the 6-bid league.
Yeah,
I know it's dumb, but they're going to help
lost
those
by
schools.
32 to Air Force and
that was the
21 to Southern, and they are inconsistent as heck.
They're not helping the other teams look better, and they're actually that's what's tough about UNLV. It's like they actually could be in the thick of this race for an at-large, but they're as good as some of those teams are close to, but their resume doesn't look as good because of like the Air Force game and the Southern game.
Yeah, the games they lost to bad teams.
Perhaps
by a lot,
UNLV,
by a ton.
By a lot. Yeah, they did. They lost by double digits to not double digits, but they lost to Marymount too. Not a great one. They could be the key to a 7-bid Mountain West, though, right? They host the Mountain West tournament.
There you go.
They're clearly good enough to beat anybody. Maybe. Again, we'll talk about that more in 3-man thoughts.
We mentioned Indiana State losing to Illinois State. Gosh, that sucks. Utah lost to Arizona State at home. Colorado losing to Arizona overshadowed this. Utah got beat by Arizona State on their home floor. Man, the
Arizona
Mountain West
broke their spirit. They broke their spirit.
Not Mountain West.
Craig Smith's quotes after the Arizona game were like, we got a real gut check coming, and they failed the gut check.
Their resume's getting dicey. They're probably on the outside looking. I'm not in bracket world yet. Bad. And it's amazing that the Mountain West second leg, both teams lost outright. That has not happened very much, I think, over the last couple of years.
Yeah, they've lost 7 of their last 11 in league play. They have done basically nothing on the road, and now they just lost 2 home games. Down the stretch, they don't have a lot of big opportunities left besides like at Colorado. So It is very dicey for the Utes. Bummer to see.
Yeah.
They'll get there. Get there, Craig. Come on.
Ironically,
Almost home.
Washington State, the other Smith, he's looking great right now.
Yeah.
Better. Yeah, much better.
Okay, that does it for three-man thoughts. Excuse me, we saw that. We are going into three-man thoughts, but first, an ad from Homefield. Homefield Apparel, the best collegiate premium apparel you can buy on the internet or anywhere else. From Power 5 to D3, they make schools on shirts, and they make them comfy, and they make them great. We own, collectively, hundreds of Homefield apparel gear, hats, sweatshirts, bomber jackets, t-shirts, long sleeve t-shirts, whatever you can think of. Homefield probably has it, and they probably have some cool designs featuring your school. Probably 100 schools. I haven't counted, but we're getting up there with the designs. They're awesome. They go back into the history of your school. Pick out things that mean a lot to you, the alumni, or the person that just likes the logo of a particular school. Vintage stuff, new stuff, recent champion stuff, different sports, different levels of sports. It's fantastic. Homefield Apparel. Go check them out, guys. Homefieldapparel.com. Get 15% off your first purchase by using our promo code 3MW at checkout. Tweet at them at Homefield, APPARL. That is Homefield, wear one for the team. We are now in Three-Man Thoughts. Hello, welcome to Three-Man Thoughts. Jim, we're on a Mountain West kick. Let's talk Mountain West. Go to you for your first thought.
Let's do it. Yeah, it's kind of all the rage in the college basketball world. A potential 6-bid Mountain West right now. I just going off the odds that Bart Torvik puts on the teams making the tournament. San Diego State is a lock, 99.9% chance. They are going to be there. New Mexico, very likely to be there too. They're up to 95.5% for an at-large. Utah State, also over 90%. So boom, look, we've got 3 right there. Colorado State's very, very close, 86.6%. And then Boise, 65%, and Nevada, 36%. Nevada with a big drop-off last night, not quite getting the home win over New Mexico. So where does that help the Lobos? Kind of hurts the Wolfpack. But there's still a pretty decent shot that we see all 6 of these teams in the field. My question to you two, do we want that? Do we want 6 teams from the Mountain West in the tournament? Just looking back, the historical stuff is not strong for the Mountain West in the tournament. I know San Diego State made the national title game last year. They went 4-2 against the spread in those 6 games. Those were the first 4 covers for the Mountain West since 2018. Since 2015, the league is 7-16 against the spread. Since 2005, 23-46. They do not play to their expectations. I think they lack the big home court that they get in that conference. So, Kai, I go to you first here. Do you want all 6 in this tournament?
I do. I legitimately think all 6 of these teams are really good, and I think they are tournament caliber. Yes, why do they perform poorly in the dance? I'm not sure. A home court is a good theory that would go into, well, if they're getting selected for frankly, a lack of road wins, maybe you can point to that, and maybe that's the case. But they're also getting seeds between 7 and 10, 11, 12 most of the time. I think it's skewed a little bit towards that. They don't get many high seeds. Obviously, San Diego State had 5 last year. I think that's part of it, but of course it's measured against the spread, so it's supposed to be the great equalizer here. Matt, I think I want all these teams in. I like the Mountain West once again. As to why they struggle in the tournament generally, maybe it's small sample size theater still, maybe not.
Yeah, it's always, anytime you try to slap a broad narrative on this type of stuff, it's mostly, circumstantial. However, I think the home court thing is real because they schedule very well. They bring good teams to their building in the non-con. They tend to perform well in the non-con because they have such strong home courts. Teams not used to playing in altitude, going there for the first time, tend to struggle. And every school in this conference is at some sort of altitude. So they do have a massive edge in terms of juicing their non-conference metrics. And then so once you get into conference play, you've sort of set the range of outcomes. And so they help themselves as a group, and then they beat themselves up appropriately in league to where they keep their resumes all good enough to make pushes here. That's what's happened this year for sure. I think there's only 3 teams. You guys are being way too nice. I don't really want to see Nevada in my tournament. I don't want to see Boise. I'm sorry. I love the Rice, but this Boise team's not that good. I just don't see it. I'm sorry.
Can I give you
Utah State? Go ahead.
Can I give you a stat real quick that I just realized going through
if
this?
I like it, yes, but if I don't,
So
discredited.
Colorado State's beaten Creighton and Colorado. Aside from them, only Nevada has beaten a tournament team from a Power 6 conference.
That
I agree.
kind of checks out.
I
I don't think
know.
Utah State played a single power conference team. Again, that kind of goes back to the smart scheduling. They find ways to get their Q2, Q1 games in, Matthew, but for all the crap that the Big 12 has gotten for like weak non-conference slates, and gaming the system, I'm saying that in air quotes for those listening. Mountain West has been very smart about this for years. They know how to figure out the schedule.
3 teams, Jim. New Mexico is the best team. That's who I absolutely want in my tournament for sure. The Aztecs, yes. And Colorado State, yes. Nevada can take a hike. Boise, I'm sorry, can take a hike. And Utah State, I'm on the fence on because I love Danny Sprinkle and the boys, but their resume does reek very much of just really, really, really smart scheduling, leaning on that home court, doing just enough on the road in conference in the right spots to squeak in with a pretty good analytically juiced resume. So 3.5 would be my preferred number. I don't want 6. I'm sorry. I don't want 6.
Yeah, I kind of want 4. I just want to cut it there. I don't need them overly proliferating through the bracket. 1 in each region. That's fine with me. Matt, it's interesting. You mentioned the elevation. You'd say every school. I'll stop you. California, not an elevated state. So San Jose State, Fresno State,
and San Jose,
San Jose
Fresno,
State,
yeah.
not elevated. But the other 8 schools are all in the top 32 of the elevation rankings. Another conference with a ton of elevation, the Big Sky, and it is also horrible in the NCAA tournament. Like Big Sky teams never do well. Danny Sprinkle's Montana State teams got thrashed twice by
Texas
power
Tech
conference
took them to the
competition.
woodshed. Yeah.
And I believe Auburn might have been Auburn. I can't remember who the other one was that destroyed them. But yeah, I think 3.5, 4 is right, Matt. That's what I want to see as well. Sorry, Mountain West, but
if Boise or Nevada or Utah State to some extent takes like Indiana State spot, like I'll be up in arms. Like I will not, I will march on the hill of the committee and do nothing. But yeah, don't do that.
You got them. I mean, I'd rather see like Wake Forest did. I think Wake Forest is better. They just don't have a Q1 win right now.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, Jim,
All right,
good
that's
thought.
it. That's my first thought. Yep.
Excellent thought. I was checking just to make sure Indiana State hasn't played any Mountain West teams. They have not. Thank goodness. Okay, good. Can't prove myself right or wrong with that one. Matt, do you want to go first, buddy? 3-man thought?
Yeah, I do. I have a quick downer thought, but I'm in a good mood at this point in time. So let's just start with a more positive themed thought. It's very simply titled "Back." Are these teams back? And a couple I want to mention because I'm a really transparent guy. I hold myself accountable, and I'm not always 100% right or right at every point in time. And I was going to actually lead off with UCLA, my number one, pinata of a team I was picking on, who's been really good lately, by the way. But I want to actually do a precursor with Virginia. Podcast timing is unfortunate after they just lost home to Pittsburgh. Talked about them a little bit last podcast. Resume metrics were surprisingly, like, this is where my bracketology ignorance comes back to bite me, but they're way more in the thick of the picture than I thought. Safely like an 8 or a 9 seed. Is that right, Jim? I'll go to you.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, they're feeling
shocked me.
solid right now. Quality stuff isn't great, but like it'd be impossible to keep them out right now. Like they're nowhere near the cut line on resume type stuff.
And a good place to be in the ACC, I think. I think they'll get some pretty good opportunities to continue to win and keep themselves safe. Also, Kihei Clark made a courtesy appearance, Kai, at yesterday's practice I saw.
Well, it didn't help
why
them
I
win.
lost.
Yeah. By the way, they never left. They've always been good.
I know.
I have never
good for
wavered.
you. Nice job, Kai. Way to go, Kai.
Thanks.
But UCLA, I mentioned Mick Cronin's general just upbeat tenor in his post-game pressers. One of my favorite post-game presser soundbite guy. But yeah, young team. They actually have some guard play that's clicking, and they're defending. Defensively, that's always been the bedrock of this team. We saw glimpses of their elite defense at Maui, and we're like, oh, wow, that defense could really make some noise in the Pac-12. And I think when they stepped up in class in the Pac-12, maybe the travel for those young kids, but offensively it was a disaster. But defensively, they weren't that great either to start. Defense is all the way there now, and they're sort of executing in kind of old school fashion now. So shouts to Mick. I know he's upset with the NIL situation out there. He today's post-game or weekly presser, he said to the reporters, like, don't even mention NIL, you're going to ruin my entire day. So let's just not even go there. He basically like squashed the entire discussion.
Oh, that's the head coach you want.
Yeah, or if you UCLA though, like, do whatever.
Recruit. I'm not coming to UCLA then.
Well, they're not paying you enough. That's the thing.
Exactly.
You don't got any money. Not getting paid.
Yeah, UCLA doesn't have enough money.
Unfortunately, Jim, for UCLA, and I'll mention Rutgers here, probably not going to make an at-large push, like going to basically need to win out at this point, but maybe we'll make noise in the Pac-12 and Big Ten tournaments respectively. Rutgers, Jeremiah Williams, shout to our gambling hero, now freed of said investigation. Also coming off not meniscus, Achilles? It was Achilles, right?
Achilles, yeah.
Achilles. Chicago boy, getting it done for Steve Heichel. A reinvention of that team. They look really good right now. And then a final note to Loyola Chicago, speaking of the Windy City, where I am they're not situated currently. Drew Valentine. And this is sort of they're back after a sluggish start, but also just disaster last season. They just got Sheldon Edwards back too. Like, this team is deep. They're good. And they're not throwing the ball into the stands every other possession. Amazing what happens when you actually take care of the ball and run the offense at a high level. 9-2, in the A10 right now, Kai. So sort of sneakily at the top there above VCU. Thoughts on any one of those teams? I'll get to Memphis here last, but thoughts on any of those handful?
Well, yeah, Loyola. I think I picked them top 4 preseason A10. A lot of people did. They expected the bounce back. Didn't look like it was really going to happen in the non-con, especially when we saw them live at the Barstool Invitational. But yeah, they've been really good in Missouri Valley play. Defense has been really, really good. I know this podcast will age poorly if this doesn't happen. I think they lose to St. Joe's tonight in Chicago. Could go up to that game. It's a huge game.
The podcast jinx. Yeah, we should be tracking that, by the way. When we talk about a team on the thought and then they play Wednesday, they feel like they always
No, but really good. They're really deep. Yeah, they're a great defensive team, especially inside at the rim. Very good.
Miles Rubin.
Yes.
They said coming in like this I hate saying kid. I don't like doing that. But
I
this
love
young
it.
man
We're
is going to change things for us on the interior, and he completely has. I mean, 3rd in the country in block rate. The only 2 people ahead of him are Jamarian Sharp, who is 7'5", and Cliff Omori, Matthew, to tie it right back to old Rutgers, who for a while was like, yes, incredible defensive team, Steve Peichel pounding nails, physical on that end, but they can't score despite bringing in Noah Fernandez, and Jeremiah Williams has like opened up the offense. Another creator, passer. Like, I watched, and you can make the argument he's their second best player. Like, him, Mag, and Omori are their clear top 3, and he's crucial right away. Incredible with all the rust he should have.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think he practiced like just for a week because I thought they'd have him cleared the game before he was cleared. So he did kind of integrate more seamlessly than I thought. But and then Memphis. Penny has sold me. Kind of, you're going to shrug right at this. But I'm sold that Memphis is back again.
You're so back and forth.
I am.
You buried
because
this
the
team.
team's back and forth.
You buried this team.
Everyone buried this team. I'm back in. I'm first on the bandwagon.
Lit Virginia on
E3.
fire. I
did.
Back on them.
No, I'll let the bandwagon fill up. I'm starting up the bandwagon reincarnation here with Memphis. Pretty in on what I've seen with the Tigers lately. Jim, is there any chance they make a push for tournament?
Yeah, they're like
buried.
next 4 out kind of right now. And
okay,
I think
so they're closer than I thought. All right.
If they can kind of recreate the success they had early in the year, it makes it more look like, oh, this is a team that had a swoon, not a like bad team that became bad. Like deleting that 4-game losing streak, following it up with another 7-game winning streak. They've won 3 now. Suddenly it looks really good. And Penny's tight in the rotation. He said we had a lot of success playing small early in the year. And it seems like they're trying to do that more, and it's been a lot of success. I can't believe Caleb Mills matters as much as he seems to.
I know. I thought he'd be a Ewing theory guy. I'm with you, Jim. It's dumb to think that like I still didn't get why they were so eager on getting Tomlin. Like, yeah, he's a great player, but just like it's so hard to put a person of that as much gravity as he has on the floor, like just to drop that in February and think that's going to work seamlessly. So
it was.
I like the new version, though. I like the new version. That's all I'm going to say.
All right. Well, they barely beat Wichita State, didn't cover. They almost lost at Temple. They might have covered late, and they beat too late.
They were up big in that game. Up big in both those games. Yeah, they need to hold leads. FAU has a similar issue. They need to hold leads in these games.
I'm intrigued by the more Jonathan Pierre. D2 National Player of the Year last year for Nova Southeastern, part of a pressing system there, kind of small ball 4. I think he actually fits what they want to do really well, and if he's getting up to speed, it could be like the Jordan Minor at Virginia, like a big kind of roster upgrade. I mean, he's only playing 12 minutes last game, 15 the previous, but I think he fits really, really well into the scheme.
And Jordan Brown's back. Apparently no longer sick. So how about that, Kai? Congrats to Jordan on getting over that illness or whatever
great.
mysterious that was. That's all I have. So congrats on being back, although most of those teams are probably going to be sitting and watching the big dance at home. But a good, for pride down the stretch.
I didn't even I forgot to mention this during the Mountain West segment. So Jets Pete, who's in the chat as well, he asked, in that 6-bid Mountain West, over under 1.5 wins in the tournament was the line that he asked about. I guess I'd take the over there, but
over, because New Mexico's going to second weekend, so one team will get you there, but the other 4 will let you down.
Okay, my turn. Wisconsin, let's do it. Let's talk Wisconsin. The Badgers. The Badgers are badging in a bad way. That's what I got to say right now for the Badgers. On January 26th, Wisconsin, 16-4, 8-1 in the Big Ten, competing for first place in that league, competing for a 1 or a 2 seed today. 17-8, 9-5 in the Big Ten, third right now, teetering on fourth, 4 seed or 5 seed territory in the tournament. They lost 4 straight, as we discussed in the earlier section. Then they won versus Ohio State, but they didn't cover. They haven't covered 5 in a row. They're 1-8 against the spread in their last 9. Ironically, it kind of started after they blew an 18-point lead at Nebraska. They lost that game in overtime. The 3 games after that, before Ohio State, barely over 1 point per possession, 3 for 19 shooting from 3. 1 point per possession, 5 for 19 shooting from 3, and 0.82 points per possession, 5 for 21 from 3. Their shooting has gone out the window. Is it in their head? We will talk about some momentum and some hot hand theory later in the podcast for a review section. Jim, is it a stretch of bad fortune? Is it the new normal? It doesn't help that Big Ten opponents are scorching from deep against them, 38%, almost 39%. Your thoughts?
I think they're this, and of course the most boring answer possible, but they're a truth is in the middle kind of team where they're not as good as they looked early, not as bad as they've been right now. 3-point splits have been awful, like you said. Opponents shooting almost 39% over the last 5, and their own squad shooting 27% in the last 5. That's per Bartorvik. And no John Blackwell also, like he's been kind of one of the spark dynamic players off the bench, and they haven't had that gear. So maybe been a little bit too much on AJ Storr, a little bit too much on Chucky Hepburn. And I watched the second half of the Michigan game where they retook the lead, seemed like they're going to do the normal thing, get the win. Michigan wilts late like they have a lot in league play. And then Wisconsin just fell in love with the 3 again. They were getting layup after layup with Storr and Wall inside, and they just started chucking and kept bricking. So it feels like they fell in love with how good they shot the ball early in the season. Now they're kind of having to learn how to win again by playing through the interior without having to rely on the 3 ball. And it probably will ultimately be better for them. But yeah, I think they're more like the 4 seed, 5 seed where they are right now, I think is kind of their true ability. They're not a 2 seed team.
Wisconsin's back in the inverse fashion for me. Like the real version of Wisconsin's back. A really good team. Just like
you're a bandwagon guy.
2 seed. I am. All these teams are so like one week it's like, God, we're sick, we're awesome, and like the next week the sky's falling. So you have to be a chair hopper in this business, the new age of college basketball.
You got to realize
my loyalty changes by the day. Every day,
I think Wisconsin's still good. I think it's just
They are good.
A bad stretch.
They're not very, very good. Chucky Hepburn's still like he cannot shoot. I'm tired of watching that as like their their bailout guy. And Storr is one of his last like 19 from 3. He's been bricky too. I don't know. Whatever.
Exactly.
I don't think they make the second week. I think they are upset fodder in the first round if they're playing a 13 or 12 kind of pod. Yeah.
Round of 32. I'll say round of 32. They get 1, but they're going to be gone after that. That's my take.
You're like the Athletic article that came out after UNC lost. What's wrong with UNC's defense?
I know. It's awesome.
It's 3-point shooting. It's 3-point shooting. It's 3-point shooting. It's 3-point shooting.
Everybody thought UNC had this amazing defense because no one made threes against them on the road. And everybody thought Arizona's defense sucked because teams made 60% from 3 against them on the road. It's like, all right, come on, folks. Let's find the middle.
Yeah, Pat's right. I'm watching too much After Dark stuff, so I got to stay on the tracks here. I got to be even keel. All
right, that does it for my first thought, Jim. Go ahead.
My second one is something we talked about before on the show. I don't think this year, but I want to see the return, or not the return, but the reintroduction and the push for a bracket draft. We talked, or I interacted with somebody on Twitter about this a little bit today. I just don't see the downside for this. And to explain it, it would be the NCAA tournament selection committee still makes their 1 through 68 seed list. And then instead of bracketing it into sites, they let teams choose their spot in order 1 through 68. So, of course, number one overall, Purdue's going to pick number one seed in the Midwest. We go from Indianapolis through to the Midwest region, et cetera. But then as you start to get further down, teams are deciding, do I want to be the 4 seed in Spokane as Wisconsin, or do I want to be the 6 seed in Indianapolis and be a lower seed, play a tougher team in the first round, but be closer geographically? I don't know exactly which choice they'd make there, but I think it'd be fun for them to have it. And this is just like a no-brainer for TV. You get a longer show, sell more ads. People will love watching this. It creates incredible storylines where it's like, oh, this team chose to play against Team X because they think they can beat them. Like, it's just nonstop, Kai. What am I missing? Is there a downside to this, or is it perfect?
Well, it is perfect because never change March Madness, please. But I like your idea. I would like to keep more or less the bracketing rules the same. So, you have to avoid a conference opponent, for instance, in round 1, if possible, that sort of thing, and avoid unbalanced regions, right? If you're picking and your region's getting a little top heavy with the top 4 seeds, that sort of thing. But I like the idea of choosing which region you want to be in, right? Yeah, instead of just geographical, because who the heck cares if you're playing in 300 miles away or 600 miles away? At some point, it doesn't matter.
Jim, I love it.
Right now, the 4s and 5 seeds are like all going to Spokane or Salt Lake because there's no good teams out west besides Arizona. So I just kind of like the idea of having to choose that. Matt, you love it?
Yeah, it's frustrating because, I'll get to this in my thought coming up here, but for a general organization, we'll call it in quotations, commissioners, the NCAA committee, and all the league commissioners driving the college basketball, college sports bus, clearly money is of fairly big importance to them. You're right. The fact that they're missing on an opportunity to make more money with something that would be more fun, that's frustrating. Like if you're going to be all about money, be predictable all the way through, especially when it actually is good for the thing that you're trying to improve. So yeah, I'm with you. This is a no-brainer to me. Like, why are we letting the commissioners choose what they think would be best for both teams? Like, you're just making everything harder on everybody. Like, let's just go in order in which you were input to the field. That's your prioritization, right? That's how it should go.
Yeah, who's not watching, even if it's 2.5 hours into the show where they've introduced the Field 68, we're way through the draft, and it's Rick Pitino's a 12 seed, and he's picking which 5 seed he wants to play against.
That's awesome.
Like, come on,
yeah, exactly.
everyone's watching that. That would be unbelievable. So
It'd be great.
Yeah. Hopefully, we'll get this up the ladder, and whoever I can't remember the new Mark Emmert's name, but we'll get it figured out and added.
I think there should be in the selection process transparency across the board. Get rid of the black box formula for the net. Tell us exactly how it's calculated. Show the discussion in the room between these people making the decisions, because ultimately it comes down to 8 people who didn't watch games all the entire year. I would love to see that video and transparency and have people blown up on social media if they're totally ignorant making some choices, which we've seen in the past. I think it'd be a great TV, great fodder, Matthew.
Yeah, give it to us. Come on, we can. I love the selection show, but I think there's fun tweaks. This is one that, like I said, I just don't see a downside to it.
All right, Matt, your turn for second thought.
Yeah, I just want to quickly acknowledge the NCAA tournament expansion stuff that went viral, would we say, or was it semi-viral? I don't want to make a bigger deal out of this than it was, but it did feel like it got a lot of play on social media. So, yeah, it does feel like the expansion is within, we'll say, 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, it was a Yahoo article, and Brett
It'll
Yormark,
happen.
the Big 12 guy, was quoted in there like, we need more teams.
Because the best teams
Direct
aren't
quote.
getting in, right?
Direct quote. Here it is right now.
UCF
This
isn't
is
going to make it.
this is my issue. Here's the direct quote. So Brett Yormark, who was at Texas Tech, Kansas yesterday. By the way, I'm tired of these Texas Tech Twitter account like hypes up like Brett Yormark in our house tonight. It's like, no, we need to be booing that guy. This guy stinks. All right. And here's why. Yeah, I want to see the best teams competing for a national championship. No different than in football. I'm not sure that's currently happening in college basketball. Like look at the last like Final Fours. Like the best teams are always playing. Like the mid majors don't ruin the best teams on the biggest stages, right? It's just like the opening round and second round when there's a million games on and half the people aren't even watching true TV when the cool upsets happen, right? So it's just a fundamentally wrong take that's veiled in like it's about money and it's about protecting the interests of the big conferences, which is fine. Just own that. That's all I want. Just be transparent about that, Brett. You're the Big 12 commissioner. Like how can you make that claim from an unbiased position? It's not genuine. And again, I think there's likely to be, we're going to go in a direction that's not going to be, there's so many options to make this like appealing to both sides where we can actually get more teams in, more of this shitty power conference teams and not mess with like the core 68, like a play-in type of thing to the 68 team field. But I feel like we're actually going to get a true bigger, broader expansion. And that's a bummer. So yeah, just frustrating when I saw it, but I don't know why I get worked up over this every time. It's just sort of going to happen. And as Jim was saying, as Kai was alluding to, it'd be cool if we could see behind closed doors. It's like, well, their jobs are awesome because they make so much money and they don't actually have to like there's no real accountability of like objective performance or transparency what they do. It's a great job to get. I mean, you can get this, commissioner or like a senior exec position.
It's like sitting on a board when you're already like the president of a different company.
Exactly.
And you get another
insane.
salary because of why.
Hard. Yeah.
The rich get richer, Matthew.
The rich get richer. And I know that all these schools are facing funding issues. And it's like, well, then I read this other article. It's like, well, for every student, there's 3 times as many administrative people. Like, what do those people do? I don't understand. Like, I want to see like a full staffing. It doesn't make any sense.
It's
anyway.
Majority does not want changes to the vast majority of the public does not want changes to the NCAA tournament, and the top 1% of people are going to change it. Unfortunately,
we could make a little more money, and yeah, it's very short term, like and possibly pollute the product, and make it less valuable in the long term. That doesn't matter to them. It doesn't matter to them. It sucks. Yeah. All right, that's it. Let's move on. Kai, your next thought.
All right, Gonzaga. It's my final thought. Man, we're getting worked up because the tournament's perfect. Come on, don't change it. Jesus. God. Wash his feet. Okay, Gonzaga. Are we sealed into a bid now, Gonzaga, after beating Kentucky? Not exactly. The resume metrics, they're still pretty bad. 51.5 is your average resume metric. Remember at-large bids. How many are there, Jim? There are 36 at-large bids. If your resume metric, basically saying how good you are in how good your results have been compared to everybody else, is 51.5, there's not a lot of room for error and unlikely you make the tournament. The predictive metrics are good, though. It's just under 20, meaning if they make it, the seeding theoretically should be solid. Predictive metrics get you seeded. Resume metrics get you selected for the field. 1-5 against Q1. 1-4 is Q1A, thanks to Kentucky win. They have that one Q1 win now. Just 2-1 against Q2. So 3 total wins across the first 2 quadrants is bad. No bad losses, but no great wins outside those 3 games. Non-con strength of the schedule is pretty good, 67th. And they're also Gonzaga. And whether you think that matters or not, bias plays a role in selection. I'm convinced, again, it's a black box. You can make cases for different teams getting in. It's an 8-person human committee, something along those lines. They will give Gonzaga, the name, a little bit more consideration. So what do they have to do going forward? They have 6 games left this season. At San Francisco and at St. Mary's are both Q1 games. St. Mary's is a Q1A game. If they win all 6, they're 24-6 with a 3-5 Q1 record pre-tournament. That gets them in. That gets them in.
Yeah,
because
they're making the tournament if they do.
Yeah, the WCC tournament, they would get a bye to the semis in that case. So that's a max 2 more games. So they would be in the tournament. If they split those games, 23-7, 2-6 in Q1, 1-1 in the WCC tournament, gets them to 24-7, maybe with another Q1, Q2 win, I'd probably say they're in. But if you drop any of the non-Q1 games in that stretch and you go 1-1 in the WCC tournament, it gets very dicey. I think Gonzaga is one of the best teams in the country, top 25. But Jim, it seems like they have some work to do to get in the field.
Yeah, they've got to win down the stretch. I was looking at it, and I kind of came to your conclusion. I was like, if they beat St. Mary's in the regular season finale and don't drop anything else, they will be in. Like, I don't care what happens in the WCC tournament. We're getting another Zags appearance. But yeah, if they drop one of those, San Francisco or St. Mary's, you got to make the final and hope there aren't a ton of bid stealers. It could get a little dicier. The one thing I think is likely for them is there's almost no chance they're first four, because I think if they get in, the predictive metric stuff will move them up the S curve. Like if they're going to be 20th in predictive metrics, they're not going to throw that team to Dayton and then be like, ha, good luck, 6th seed, being a 4-point underdog in the first round against Gonzaga. I think they've kind of wisened up to that a little bit. So I think that would move them up the S curve. But getting in is the dicier part for them. They've got to go at least 5-1 down the stretch here, I think.
Yeah, problem is, Kai, is I know they host Santa Clara and they'll be double-digit favorites in that game, but that's not like
revenge.
That's a tough one. I don't know. I feel like that could be a potential landmine, and they have to go to San Francisco, right? And
that's their chance. Yeah, that's
right.
Q1 chance there.
And then, so yeah, that's
can't beat them too bad though. They beat them too bad. It's a Q2.
If you're if you're dialed on the Gonzaga at-large quest, there are 2 bumps in the road before the St. Mary's game that are perhaps more important in totality than that one too. Got to get them all though. Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right. That's my second and final thought, actually. Just 2 for me today. Jim, got a third one for us?
Yeah, just a quick nod to a couple of Big 12 teams that are rolling. Baylor and Iowa State, they're coming, man. They're almost to the 2 seed line. Iowa State might actually be there right now because they've been actually winning on the road. Not what we typically think of with Iowa State, but they've gone on the road. They forced 27 turnovers at TCU. They forced 25 at Cincinnati. That pressure is traveling, Matthew. We think of it more as a swells from the heart of the Hilton Magic, but they've been awesome on the road. And then you look at Baylor, and they have 4 Big 12 losses. One was at the buzzer at Texas. 2 were in overtime or triple overtime. And the 4th was they had 2 chances to tie it at Allen Fieldhouse in the final 10 seconds. Wide open threes that they did not hit. So 2 by 1 possession, 2 in overtime. They're really, really good. Their lead on offense, maybe a little shakier on defense. Iowa State is the inverse. Elite on defense, a little shaky on offense. Matt, which of these teams are you more intrigued by looking ahead to March Madness, just based on what they've done so far this year?
Baylor, when Langston Love comes back, I think he's sneaky, really important for a team that doesn't really have much guard depth. With our guy Messi Misi being a little stalwart up front. I like the long-term trajectory of Baylor, and we got Scott Drew mixing and matching defenses. So I think they kind of have that chameleon, tough to play against thing with a better defense, what we've seen in years past. Iowa State, Coach of the Year, TJ Otzelberger. I mean, I feel like it's not being discussed as a real thing, but I kind of thought they'd be not a paper tiger, Kai, but certainly below 500 or right at 500 Big 12 team based on their makeup, based on their scheduling, the non-con. And that roster is not exactly dripping with lottery picks or 5-star blue chippers. I think you asked even a casual guy.
5-star they have, Billy, who doesn't even play.
Doesn't even play, right. The other freshmen's playing more, and the guys like Keyshawn Gilbert, passed off transfers. And Taman Lipsey's such an awesome star for them, a perfect start for that team. But really, it is a true, sum of the parts greater, or the whole greater than the sum of the parts type thing. I'm in on this Iowa State team. I've been selling the last couple of years just because of the way they're structured, but I'm kind of in on this version too. I'm in on both, Jim. Sorry.
TJ Otzelberger, man. This is the answer to how do you know if someone's a good coach? Well, look at the roster and look at the results every single year. If you say, I can't believe this team is this good 3 years in a row, the coach is fantastic. Otzelberger's an insane job at Iowa State.
It's funny because when I was living in Vegas, people were almost ready to run him out.
Yep.
Right.
And he got hired at Iowa State. People are like, what has he done to deserve this? Now it's like, oh, he's just a good coach.
Yeah.
3 straight years of making them, like you said, maximizing what's on the roster.
And South Dakota State, man. He was pretty darn good there too.
Yep. I love my guy, Momcilovic. What a shooter he is.
He's awesome.
Why is UNLV so hard to win at? Just as a quick aside here. I think it's
Mountain West is a good league, man. There's a lot of good home courts in the Mountain West, and UNLV is not one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The opposing players can't go out and get hammered on the strip, Matt. They're not 21.
Yeah,
it's too hard, too strict of carding rules in Las Vegas. That's the problem.
All right,
But
Jim.
that's it. I just wanted to credit those. And I think Matt has a third three-man thought.
I do. The return of my guys, real quick. I think we've talked about one of these, but I want to bring it up again. Danny Wolf. I think everyone in our chat currently listening now knows who Danny Wolf is, but Yale's best player, 7-footer, just a virtuoso as a point forward for an awesome Yale team that's undefeated in the Ivy. Knock on wood. Please bring it home for our conference futures. And I think objectively the best team in that league, a really good league with Princeton and Cornell, which is where my guy plays, Chris Mannon. Two just really versatile forwards that play an unorthodox type of systems. That if either one of these teams are in the big dance, I think it's a pretty good bet we're going to see Princeton or Yale or Cornell, and I'm thrilled because all three teams are fun, and I can sell all three to my friends when I'm sitting there at the round one Thursday. Yeah, this team's really cool. You like this guy.
We're gonna have
Chris
a fun
Mannon,
time watching
this play for sure. So keep it. So Danny Wolf, Chris Mannon, those two for Cornell and Yale respectively. Also, deepish cut
Matt,
here. Yeah, go ahead.
Danny Wolf, best player in Division I from Israel. He's Israeli.
That's right.
I think he's the best.
That's right.
I would say right now the best Israeli player in Division I. He's been outrageous for them.
Did not play last year. Rode the bench behind some really good big guys. Developed. What a concept. What a novel idea that is. Stick to good coaches tend to harvest the best out of you, young kids out there. So if you're playing for a good coach, trust them. You're going to come. Your time will come. Quick shout to the Texans, Kai. Tarleton. No coach, no problem. Well, they do have a coach. Johnny Jones. Joseph Jones. JJ. Thank you. Get the J name, the double fish hooks there. Filling in for Billy Gillespie. I watched the team play twice. This team is really good. I don't know where they find these dudes, like some random JUCO in Texas or in Oklahoma or Missouri that no one's ever heard of. But they have like actual dogs. That's a overused term in our business, but they really have some dogs, and they're a thorn in the side of teams they play. And I'm really rooting for them to take it down and whack Vegas this year. I know Grand Canyon's sort of the bully in that league, and that's a tall task, and they got beat by 30 by Grand Canyon in the first match today. If they can somehow avoid Grand Canyon or beat them, that'll be a team I would look into back first round. They're sort of a giant killer type of DNA. They can turn you over, get to the glass, and just a really unorthodox type of matchup where they can just bring physicality to you. So we'll see. Shouts to a team that I've lost a lot of money fading this year. It's just a good team. So there you go.
I think they get the balls beat out of them in the tournament.
In the
By
NCAA
Grand Canyon.
tournament or the WAC tournament?
Destroyed by a good team.
Oh,
in the
but
NCAA
by an
tournament.
actual good team?
Yeah. Just like 30 lost to Virginia, lost by 23 to Bradley, lost by 20 to Tennessee. They can't step up. That style play does not work against the big boys.
It's not
I
the
thought
same
about
as
this.
it's been in the
Okay.
past, where it was like get to the free throw line and like take 25 seconds off the shot clock. They're not playing as extreme Gillespie ball as they have the past 2 years, where like they went to Gonzaga and almost won last season. It's not quite the same degree of it, which I think hurts their ability to play up. But my spin zone here, Matt, is I'm okay with them winning the WAC tournament if Grand Canyon wins out to the final, because I think they get in at like 32-3 if they win out to the WAC tournament.
A two-bid whack.
That'd be
That'd be
cool.
very fun.
Yeah.
I think you're both right on the step up in class. However, my counter is that they're a super, super, super young team, and they played all those good teams way back in November.
Yeah.
I think they're a little different now, but we'll see.
Grand Canyon's awesome. We need them in the tournament for sure. All right, that's three-man thoughts, guys. Let's hit some game previews, a six-pack for the weekend, finish up with some reviews, and then send the good people packing. Friday, we have a big game in Mountain West. Hey, a conference we've talked about a lot this podcast. Will it remain a six-bid league? Probably still after this game, or at least a possibility of it. New Mexico is heading to San Diego State. Ken Pum has it San Diego State -4. San Diego State just lost at home, surprisingly, to who they just lose to? Am I making this up? I thought they just did.
No.
They just beat
San Diego State
they
just lost
outscored-
somebody at home. Am I wrong?
They just lost.
No,
they
Nevada?
lost at Nevada.
They lost
Yes.
at Nevada. Excuse me.
In overtime.
Yeah, the AS Center, very tough place to play. New Mexico on the road, theoretically not as good. They just lost at home to UNLV. Jim, your thoughts on this game?
Well, San Diego State at home, like I said, it put in there as a note. It's just really, really hard. Kevin Sweeney went on a little bit of a mini Twitter rant about how they're officiated at Viejas, and I think that got some angry pushback. San Diego State can be militant fan base on Twitter if you really
They
poke
can.
the bear too much. But New Mexico's been much better at home. I think this is San Diego State. New Mexico coming off that buzzer-beating win at Nevada. Matthew going from altitude to Viejas. I think San Diego State, just situationally, it's way, way stronger for them. And I still don't know if New Mexico knows for sure that Donovan Dent's their best card, and I need them to.
I know, figure it out. I know Mashburn had the 2 huge shots late, but and let's knock. Hopefully Dent's okay. I think he got hurt at the end of that game. I'm gonna roll with my Lobos here, which is dumb because you're right. Every like situational spot in the Mountain West has played as you expect. So do as I say, not as I do. If you want to bet on this game, I still in my plumes believe that the Lobos get this done and sort of kind of open everyone's eyes as to how good they are because Donovan Dent gets them there. Your best card, Richard. Learn.
I'll take the Aztecs as well. 12-0 this year at home. San Diego State 7-3 against the spread. 2 of those games were against non-D1, so pretty good little advantage there. All right, Saturday.
They just beat Colorado State 41-11 in the second game.
Yeah, it was not
41-11.
Hey, that's potential NCAA tournament team, Colorado State too. 11 points, one half.
We probably should have mentioned the injury section. Cartier for Colorado State does not look good for him.
Yeah, that's bad. And then could you consider that for the committee? No, they have no idea who that player is. Trust me. Okay, Saturday, 5 games here. Marquette at UConn, obviously a very big game. Marquette has won 2 of the past 3. Wow, they obviously won the conference last year over UConn. UConn -7 per KenPom, Jim. Very big, but I've learned my lesson. I'm never fading UConn again. This team is dangerous when it's hitting on all cylinders.
Yeah, at UConn certainly scares me. But I kind of think Marquette hangs around. They've covered 7 of 8. They've been playing really, really well. Kolek has ascended to like a completely different level. I think it was Goodman that tweeted his last 7 game stats. It's like over 20 points a game, 9.5 assists per game, 52% from the field, 48% from 3. He and Iguodaro are just like exchanging 1-5 pick and roll and then 5-1 pick and roll. Iguodaro had 2 dunks yesterday because Kolek screened both his own man and Iguodaro's guy. Like they've kind of got it figured out. They're a little healthier on the bench now. I know Sean Jones isn't there, but Ross is playing well, and Joplin has also ascended. Kai, he had a dunk last night.
A nasty throwdown.
I tweeted about it. So David Joplin is on the board. That might not be his first dunk of the year, but he did have one. As great as UConn is, I kind of think Marquette competes in that game.
I agree. It's close. UConn. Actually, one of
Are you out on
Marquette
UConn too?
outright. No, UConn's awesome. They're the best.
Marquette outright. Wow. Love
Yeah,
it.
I'm gonna go Marquette outright
Okay.
here. It's everything I've read about this is like they've had this game circled, and I saw some of the local Marquette beat guys talking about how they've prepped this week. Like they've really dialed into this UConn game. So we'll see.
Kentucky at Auburn. Next one, Auburn -9 per KenPom. Yikes, no chance that's that high. Points in this game. Auburn, fantastic at home. Kentucky, certainly been a bit injured the last few games. Do they have the horses to stick with Auburn at Auburn in the jungle, Matthew? Your thoughts?
Yes, they do, but do they have the size and the muscle up front to combat Jonah Broom, who I think is a difference maker? That is where I don't believe they do. I think that's what ultimately wins them this game. And I think it's a coming out party for some of Auburn's guards who don't get the love that they should, aka Trey Donaldson, who's been starting, been really good lately. I think it's a good time for him to showcase his talents against these young Kentucky guards who are fast and furious, but not as precise as he is.
Yeah, Trey Mitchell had an X-ray after the game. He played against Ole Miss, but then got hurt again late. I think they need him on the floor. A lot of people have pointed out how their pick and roll coverage is bad in general, but when he's out, it's abysmal because the young freshman bigs just don't really know how to communicate, recover as quickly. He's just got more veteran savvy in that, and that could be a disaster going to Auburn. They've got guards that can make shots off the bounce. If you try to play sloppy drop coverage, they'll either pull up on you or they'll throw lobs to Broom and Cardwell, and you let that team get a couple dunks in the jungle and it starts to feel like a real intimidating place to play. The crowd gets on top of you. So I think Auburn kind of smashes Kentucky there. They haven't solved it enough to feel good about them.
190 points will be my prediction for the total score of that game.
I like that. I think Auburn hits triple digits, right? Like I feel okay about that.
I feel good about 90. I mean, they've hit 94 times in SEC play. Is that right?
Oh, For them
Yeah, 4
for
times.
there to be 190 points, Matt, you're going to need 100 from someone.
You're gonna need 90 or a hundo, unless you have a nip and tuck 90 to 92
That's
game.
still only 180.
99 all.
That's right. See, that's a huge number. 180.
Yeah,
I'll go
you said
180. Sorry.
190.
190 is
That's
too
like,
big.
all right,
That's too
you
big.
know how we get there?
That's too big.
Creighton and Butler. How about this game? Creighton -1 per KenPom at Butler. Butler beat Creighton at Creighton without Posh Alexander. Hot take from me, Posh Alexander does not matter for this team.
I agree. I agree. Don't play him.
Watching the Providence
Don't play
game was
him.
like,
I'm
we need to
sorry.
get Posh out of the game because he turnovers, missed layups. Is he the worst finisher around the rim in the country? That's supposed to be a good player. You can tell I'm a little bit mad that the Butler -3.5 was about the biggest lock of a bet I've ever made, and they lost that game. Jim, go
You
ahead.
couldn't make floaters in that game. It's just like you get 4 feet from the front of the hoop, and it's like it's short arm that still.
Yeah.
The turnovers were like he just throws it to people who aren't looking. He throws it straight to the other team. He can be a good player. He was really not on that day. Yeah, that was very frustrating. All right, Kai, now that we've got that off our chest, I think Creighton gets a little road revenge here. They lost
Yeah,
at
me
home,
too.
gave up like almost 100 to Butler without Posh. It almost is better for Creighton with Posh back in the lineup. As long as you kind of track Davis Davis and Brooks will probably get some shooting opportunities off ball screens because of the deep drop with Kalkbrenner basically under the rim. But I think Creighton can outshoot them. Hinkle's a great shooting background, Matthias, which I bet the shooting Jays are gonna enjoy.
Jump shooting
And,
Jays.
Yeah, jump shooting Jays. Give me them with a victory on the road there.
I agree. I was just thinking back to the Posh thing. I like just put Telford as your point guard and just play
Yes,
like a.
he brings the
you know
ball
what
up
I mean?
anyways when Posh is in.
He's a great passer, and Landon Moore's solid and kind of bring it up too. Yeah, I think there's a
And
world where
Bizjack
Butler's
just
better
went
with that.
nuts
Bizjack is
yesterday.
good.
He's not
yes.
a point guard, but that's another like you could play him at the wing if you're playing Telford at the point.
I really like both these teams. So no more about the match itself. I like both these teams big picture quite a bit. I really do. I
Really?
think people are going to sour on Creighton and like they can't guard anybody. It's like, no, they're guarding people. People are making shots against them, but they're gonna be just fine.
Well,
They'll
they
be
give up
just
shots.
fine.
That's the problem.
Yeah, they
don't-
make more than you can.
They don't
though.
turn
Creighton-
you over at all.
They don't turn you over.
Give me
you have
Creighton.
to, Creighton wins.
I'm taking Creighton. Okay, Big 12 country, Kansas at Oklahoma. OU -2 per KenPom. Clearly, Kevin McCullough is the question mark here. Is he healthy for this game? I kind of assume he is. I don't know the extent of his ailment, but I assume he's back.
Bruised knee. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, they got 5 full days off. They need to rest. Baby.
Yeah. OU is tough at home, very tough at home. It's a good team. Kansas 1-5 on the road in Big 12 play this season. Yikes. I would probably still take Kansas here, Jim, but it depends on McCullough. If he's out, can't take Kansas.
I think even if he's in, I'm going Oklahoma. I just do not
Yeah.
trust Kansas on the road in league play. They have had real problems. Matt, they asked Bill Self how Timberlake played over the weekend against Baylor, and Bill Self was like, "He played." it was not great. I think that during the
Played.
broadcast they were trying to like be kind to him and point. Like he had one really good block shot. And I think he had like a steal and a dunk, but then he had some other like baffling rotations where he just would leave a guy defensively. And
Yeah.
if you get a little too much of him, it's a problem. And really, the only
He
guy
wasn't bad on offense, leading
guys.
scorer of that game. On
If who
5
was
for 7.
the Baylor guard who just walked into a wide open three to win the game? If whoever took that shot,
Walter to tie it. Yeah.
if he would have made that, I think Timberlake would have been pushed out the door after the game. I mean, it was
Well,
just
the
most abysmal defensive play you've ever seen.
Previous possession too, he was guarding Jaden Nunn in the corner and just like ran under the basket to help and left him wide open for a game time one that Nunn also missed. Anyways, yeah, all this to say, Oklahoma at home, Porter Moser against kind of limited Kansas that I think Bill Self is doing a masterful job to have them in like the 2 seed, 3 seed competition or conversation. I still think Oklahoma wins that one.
Yeah, I agree. I worry OU though. No Hughley last game, and I think Soares just got hurt, so they're not exactly at 100% either. And it's an ugly game. I just think Porter Moser finds ways to win these big kind of gross games, especially at home. So
All right, finally, guys, we'll end with this one before reviews. Wake Forest at Virginia. UVA -1 per KenPom. Okay, does Virginia lose 2 in a row at JPJ? Seems unlikely. They're still in the hunt for an ACC title. It's them, Duke, and UNC right now in a pretty tight race. Wake Forest really needs this win for their tournament resume. They've really shot up the KenPom ratings recently. Clearly a very good team. They need a Q1 win, Jim. Do they get it at Virginia?
I am on my knees begging Wake Forest to get a Q1 win. You are a good team. You are a fun to watch team. You've got a bunch of really good guards. You've got shooting all over the floor. Win enough games to get in the tournament, please. They beat Syracuse by 29. They beat Georgia Tech by 29. That's why they vaulted up Ken Pom. And they're really good when Efton Reed's on the floor. But they didn't have much of a chance at Duke, Matt, because he was like reaching 40 feet from the basket and going over the back. Like, they were ticky-tack fouls, but they were fouls. They were stuff that is super easily avoidable. If he stays on the floor, this team's really, really good and has a chance. I'm gonna say Wake does get it done, Kai, and maybe Virginia isn't fully solved. You got to be able to shoot to beat Virginia, and Wake Forest can really shoot. Pitt lit them up from the
and shoot from deep, from deep too. Yeah,
I think Wake can do that as well.
Yeah, they were like 11 of 24 from three in the first game, won by 20. Virginia way better now than they were the first time they played, but same recipe of success for Wake here. I really like Wake. I was excited to see that Duke game. That game just kind of stunk overall. Like I was just like, that was a waste of my time watching that game. It's just ugly, and neither team played true to the form I'm hoping to see long term. Yeah, I think Wake gets the sweep, Kai.
I'm going Virginia. I have a lot of money on riding on Virginia to win the title, so I'm going Virginia.
The ACC title.
ACC title.
That's funny. I've got good money
lot
on
of
UNC
money.
Or Duke to win it. So Kai, you and I are maybe we figure out a way to hedge among each other.
UNC 11-3, Duke 10-3, Virginia 10-4. Wow.
It's gonna be a really fun race. Okay, that does it for previews, guys. Thanks for sticking around. Real quick, 2 reviews to finish us off. Good questions too. Good discussion. I think we'll have over the next probably 10 minutes or so. So here we go. From Tarhole 723, best podcast.
Made me laugh.
Best podcast covering that's his funny name. Covering the whole CBB landscape, excuse me. The scope and depth with which 3MW cover the sport is unmatched. I love that. Appreciate it. Although he does say he thinks we're a bit reluctant to adjust our opinion on Hubert Davis. Okay, fair criticism. UNC's been good this year. That's all I'll say. For now.
Let's not crown him. We're not.
I'm not crowning him. I know who he is. I've been beating the roster's great, by the way. Okay.
Crown that.
So his question is, what are your thoughts on Evan Mia coming out with a new rating system that adjusts for teams, quote unquote, overperforming against lesser competition? He specifically mentioned its potential usefulness with, for instance, Houston looking, quote unquote, overrated in the classic computer metrics with their start to Big 12 play. Ken Pom has long defended that beating bad teams definitively is informative, but found someone with the analytic chops of Mia addressing it is interesting. All right, Jim, I'll let you go take the first crack at this one.
I want to blow my brains out every time someone is like, Houston is so overrated. Like, do they have to be 24-0 to think they're good? Like they started 1-2 in Big 12 play, lost by basically a possession at Iowa State and lost by 1 at TCU. And suddenly it's like, wow, this team clearly just fattened itself up on bad teams. No, they're 21-3 and atop the Big 12. Universally agreed, the best conference in the country. So stop it. Stop trying to make it sound like they're overrated. That said, I do think there is something to teams that play better against inferior competition in curbing the edge for winning by 40 instead of 25. I think has maybe a little bit of merit just in my head. But again, I'm not a statistician like Evan or Ken. I'll let them duke it out. The Houston thing makes me so mad. It was like before they can't get it done in the Big 12. They're just beating up on American teams. And now they're 8-3 in the Big 12, and people are still moving the goalposts and like, well, they're not winning by enough. I can't stand it. Matt, you say something.
Yeah, I agree. Purdue and UConn, like every other team, has taken losses in conference play. Like it's just you can make that case about whatever. Also agree that there is some merit to overvaluing teams that beat crappy teams, but I'm sort of with KenPom. Like I do think, that does matter. Like BYU, were they overrated at the beginning of Big 12 play? Maybe a little bit, but what's BYU right now in Big 12?
They're 6-5, and they played a tough schedule.
And they've played really well in like all those road games. Like could have easily won at Baylor. So I don't know. I think there is going from 20-30. Like I mean, how many times have we seen leads blown? Right? Like Florida last night, BYU actually last night. Going from 10-20 and 20-30 is actually impressive. I think people undervalue that part. maintaining leads, building leads, holding leads, especially for college kids too. So I
It's
don't
also
know.
like it is to the point now in the sport that it is not a secret that doing that helps you. So everyone could do that. Everyone has the
They're not
option of
trying
doing
to.
it. So what? Yeah, well, that's
Yeah,
their own
everyone's like,
dumb
"Oh,
fault.
I'm just such a good sport. We're gonna take our foot off the gas because we don't want to be too mean to the team we're down." It's like, no, you're trying to do what you want to do every possession. Like, I don't buy
Win
that.
by 40. You have the choice. If you can, might as well do it.
I mean, if you've played any level of sport or level in basketball, you know a team that wins by 40 against a certain team is better than a team that wins by 10. If you're blowing teams out consistently, you're awesome. Like you're just awesome. It matters. It absolutely matters. Oh, they beat them by 40. Who cares? I care. I care a lot. That means they're really good, and they're proving it. Again, they're first place in the Big 12, guys. This is not an argument. They're not overrated. Okay, cool guy. 464-738-38:7 says, momentum. Hello to College Basketball Podcast. That is us. Good. Okay. Wondering if you guys believe it's possible to quantify momentum. Wondering because it seems like Devin Carter for Providence shoots 60% from the coach's box, and obviously that always seems to spark more momentum than his normal three-pointer. So he said his brain was working on how valuable this is. Are there factors to this? Home away, leading, trailing, contestant, wide open, etc. He said, can you power rank these plays based on how much momentum they gain your team? 1, a foul on a 3 that misses but 3 for 3 for free throws. Number 2, a logo 3, so really, really far 3. Or 3, shot clock expiring 3. Do you think momentum for each team is independent, or is there a singular momentum for how the game is going? I think momentum is real. As a former player, yes, that's right, player.
Yes.
Quantifying
Quantifying it though,
real.
quantifying it is, I think, near impossible. Jim,
Hard.
Yeah, it's almost impossible because it's very case by case. And like he said, there's a lot of different factors. So whenever people try to measure it, they're like, oh, if you scored 5 in a row, how likely are you to score 10 in a row? And they're like, oh, it's not, it's in like, there's no correlation between that. Well, that's you're painting with way too broad a brush for that. That's why it's hard to measure, but you can feel it if you're watching a game, if you're seeing a team like kind of just having fun, like the grin that guys get and the confidence they start to play with. Like one guy makes a shot, suddenly everybody's making shots, and vice versa. There are clearly games where a team just doesn't have it and they're trying to figure things out and they get no momentum. So I fully believe it is real. I think it is almost impossible to measure statistically. So can't prove it. We'll never be able to prove it, but we'll dig in my heels and die on that hill. To answer his question, I think the best momentum one is the logo 3, followed by the shot clock expiring 3, followed by the foul on a 3.
Yeah.
But if it is a shot clock expiring logo 3, like Devin Carter does half the time, that is the ultimate like galvanizing force. So yeah, I'm with him.
I totally
Jim,
agree. Matt, you can go ahead. Go ahead.
My ranking was logo 3 at home, shot clock expiring 3 on the road. I just think that
Defeating.
like that's just so deflating. Like that just sucks the home crowd out of it, right? Like at the buzzer, you play at 30 seconds, the crowd's like, come on. Everyone's amped up playing a good hard defensive stance, and a guy hits a hero ball shot.
Oh yeah,
And
I forgot
fouling
my,
on a yeah, I don't know. It's tough.
almost forgot my movie reference. That really obscure movie reference. My guy Archer from Small Soldiers, things like 1995.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
because you see it doesn't mean it isn't there.
Almost the
Momentum.
exact same
Wow,
quote from the
great
Santa Claus, Jim, as well. The elf says, have you ever seen a polar bear in real life? No, I haven't. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
There you go.
By the way, yes. So momentum real quick. If you hit shots, you play better on defense. You just do. Good offense leads to good defense. You're into the game more. If you hit shots, you get better shots on the next possession, the next possession, the next possession. Guys aren't forcing. Ball moves better. Hitting shots leads to better possessions, better defense, momentum.
Yeah.
I've thought
Team
about
makes
this,
5
Kai.
or 6
I'm not
early.
sure I'm convinced on this.
You disagree?
Coaches always say this too. Like
I'm
they
just
say,
speaking from
like
experience,
good offense,
man.
good offense like fuels good defense.
It does.
So if you remove like the touchdown turnovers and like long rebounds that actually lead to easy buckets, I psychologically I've never been of the believer that like I'm playing better defense or I'm more locked into defense because I'm playing well on offense.
especially
Like,
late in games, I disagree.
don't
Your
know if I feel
intensity
that
goes up multitudes. Your
You could also argue
confidence
you
goes
need
up.
to get stops.
Confidence
more
begets
because you
better
haven't
playing,
scored.
too.
Like you could actually argue you take your foot off the gas defensively because you're scoring. I don't know. I think about this live. It's a fascinating discussion. I'm glad this review was brought up. I will mull it over and maybe we'll circle back to it on next week's episode. But I've sort of rejected this notion.
Confidence is one of the biggest things in being able to play well, and
That's part of momentum.
that comes from hitting shots.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Man,
well, that I
oh,
agree
Kai
with.
just drilled 2 threes in a row. Now I'm open. I know
Yeah.
I'm sinking this. Or
That I agree
I'm
with.
taking it more
Yes.
confidently.
And I've hit 2 shots in a row. I don't need to force a jump shot. I've gotten mine here. You take a shot. Oh, you hit it too. Good. You take a shot. Now, like we haven't hit shots 10 in a row. I'm going to force one now, and it gets worse and
Yeah,
worse.
I buy that. I'm just saying the offense to defense relationship and momentum. That's where I'm more confused.
Game
Harrison's
state.
point in the chat matters too. If you're making shots, you set your defense.
Sure.
That helps.
Yeah, I'm saying removing that from the equation. Like obviously the runouts are different, but like if you're just missing and you think it's a defensive rebound, you go back and get your defense set versus you score, get back and get your defense set. Like, is there a major difference between those situations?
This is just because Matt's never played a good defensive possession.
No, I haven't. I'm
Keeps
all
his
ball
hands
game.
on balls.
I'm a gamble.
Tips
I
a
do.
lot.
I'm a good over defender for sure.
Yeah. All right. Good discussion. This was good. Maybe we'll dive into this more in the
Yeah.
off season. We clearly have opinions on this topic. We are back on Saturday for our best bet show. For now, there's a slight possibility we're back on Thursday or Friday. I doubt it.
I have a missed call from our sponsor. To
Okay.
get
Well,
to
we might.
after this.
well, we
Let's
might.
call him back live on the show.
So,
can't do
just
that.
for now, play on Saturday, 10 a.m. Best bet show, or maybe an hour earlier, TBD. Since Kai's in DC, we'll discuss that. But
Yep.
enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy your weekend, guys. Watch some hoops. Happy Valentine's Day to all the lovers out there, or the non-lovers. Big deal. You can celebrate it too. Eat some candy. Why not? All right. Peace out. See you next time.